Well, in today's episode of Value in My Toy Collection, we are finally going to get through with the pageant part of our collection. It's taken a long time, but this is the remaining pieces of my old office, so I'm going to finally value the rest of this pageant collection today. Hey everyone, my name's Chris. I'm a full-time beauty pageant director as my career, but in my spare time, I'm a huge toy collector. I've been collecting toys now for over 40 years. You can officially call me a toyaholic. Thanks so much for checking out my YouTube channel. My channel consists mainly of two things: beauty pageants, which I love, and toys, which I love even more. My dream in life has always been to own a toy museum. So it's finally happened. I've bought a building, and now I've got to move this massive collection and value it into the building. We're calling it the Toy Vault because it's an old bank building located in Crystal Springs, Mississippi that actually has two large vaults. So now I'm just going to make a ton of videos and value my toy collection, and then I'm going to make some where I take you shopping with me to thrift stores and flea markets and toy stores to let you see where I find all these goodies. So let's start this episode of Value in My Toy Collection and value some toys. Well, first up, we have this mannequin we turned into a Miss Universe. The mannequin's worth about $100, the dress is worth about $50, the crown is worth about $75, and the banner is worth $100. And she's pretty impressive sitting in this old wicker chair from the 70s, and they use these wicker chairs a lot of the times at the pageants as the throne chair. And the chair by itself is probably worth about $100. Some of them go up to about $200. I have this whole stack of miscellaneous stuff, pictures and newspapers, and I don't want to go through everything, but I'm just going to give it a value of $100. I have another mannequin in this green dress with the dress and mannequins worth about $100. And then we have this one. The crown is worth about $50 and the banner is worth $100, and the mannequin itself is worth about $50. But I'm changing the dress that I'm going to show you at the end of the video. I have this little scrapbook piece framed up worth about $5. This old Kenner 1991 Miss America Top 5 poster is worth about $20. That's Marjorie Judith Vinson, Miss America 1991 pictured. And then next up, we have a Miss America poster we got in Atlantic City, and it's worth about $15. I think that's from 1996. And then we have this old Miss Universe framed panoramic picture from 1961, and it's worth about $100 framed up. It's really nice, and it's got all the contestants on it. And then my friend Jessica was Miss Mississippi Teen USA one year in 2004, and we went out to Palm Springs to that pageant, and they were selling those posters. It's probably worth about $15. Got so much stuff in here. Here we have some individual photos of former Miss USA winners, and these are all autographed and framed. Some are color, some are black and white, and I figure they're worth at least $15 each. Some of them maybe a little bit more, but that's about the average, $15 each. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to put all these on the wall at the Toy Museum or have to put some in scrapbooks because we are limited in space. Then here's another set of Miss USA and Miss Universe pictures. They're all autographed. They're pretty cool and collectible. And these are also worth about $15 each. Alright, next up, these little mirrored pedestals I'm using as a stand to hold this picture are worth about $20. And this was Miss West Virginia Teen USA in the Miss Teen USA pageant one year in her state costume. And I actually bought the state costume off eBay one year. Here it is on a mannequin, probably worth about $200 with the mannequin. But it is pretty cool, something I wanted to have. Then I've got these banners you hang up. They're like, not posters, they're vinyl. And we have several of these. This is Miss America 1951. She was the Miss America that refused to pose in her swimsuit after she won. So Catalina, the swimsuit sponsor, started a whole different pageant called Miss USA and Miss Universe. This one is of Tony Seawright. She was the first African-American lady to be crowned Miss Mississippi. And she went on to be fourth runner-up to Miss America. These banners are really cool, but they're not very valuable. They're probably worth about $15 each. And I just wish I had more space to hang all this up. This is Heather French. She was Miss America 2000. She was the Millennial Miss America, and she got the crown that had rubies in it. Pretty cool. And then we have the most famous Miss America of all, Vanessa Williams, who was the first African-American lady to be crowned Miss America. She was Miss America in 1984. And she was also the first Miss America to have her title taken away from her, but they ended up giving her title back to her like 20, 30 years later when she came back to judge. But she's a very beautiful Miss America and a very big part of their history. And this banner is of Kelly Cash. She was Miss America in 1987. She was like the grandniece of the country singer Johnny Cash. And she's my friend on Facebook. And I did ask her, I said, what happened to your dress, your gown? And she said she ended up donating it to a museum in Tennessee. And they ended up putting it in a drawer or closet somewhere over time. And she wishes she could have it back. All right, this was Phyllis George. She was Miss America from Texas in 1971. And I had a banner made of this one because that's the year I was born, 1971. So I thought that was pretty cool. And she was given the gold crown that year because she was the 50th Miss America crown. All right, this is a pretty cool thing I bought. I bought this display from 1960 where like the art directors had made a mini stage of the Miss Universe pageant, I believe. And I didn't pay a whole lot for it, but I'm going to put it on display at the Toy Museum. These were just the extra pieces to it that I'm keeping in the box. And then it also had this one from the Miss USA Universe pageant in 1962. And this one's a little more detailed, and it's the little miniatures of the set design from like the swimsuit competition, the opening number competition, the evening gown competition. And I figured these little pieces are worth at least $100 to the right collector. They're very cool and very detailed. This is all done on computer nowadays, but back then they really had to make miniature pieces. All right, I have this big collage of old TV Guide advertisements. I remember being a kid, I was always looking forward to when pageants came on because I would go through the TV Guide and tear out the pages that I wanted to save. And I would always have to do it after the pageant was over because my parents would get mad at me for tearing up their TV Guide and not knowing what came on TV, because that's how we knew when things came on back then. We used the TV Guide. But this framed picture with all the ads is worth about $100. Then I also have another one that's of the USA system. It's got Miss USA ads, it's got Miss Universe ads, and then it's got Miss Teen USA ads. And I didn't collect all of these because I really didn't start collecting pageant memorabilia until about 1987. So some of these I did buy on eBay and just collect over the years, but I did frame them up all together. And again, this one's also worth about $100. Next up, we have some Miss America ticket stubs, and then this little poster was in the newspaper display rack that we borrowed from Atlantic City. I'd like to use the word borrowed because they were just going to throw it away. And then we have an Oktoberfest poster. It's worth about $10. That was Jenna Edwards. She was Miss Florida America and Florida USA. Have a Miss Magnolia State oval painting I made. It was worth about $15. And a couple of my little cartoon paintings that are worth about $25 each. All right, next up we have a whole bunch of banners. These are just banners we've collected over the years. We have a Miss Philippines banner we use just to play with, have fun with. And then it has a really nice brooch on it. That's probably worth $10, $20 by itself. And then we have a Miss American States USA pageant banner, a teen Miss Magnolia State banner, and then off eBay I got a former Miss District of Columbia USA banner, and then when she was in the World America pageant in 1993. All those banners are probably worth about $100 total. Not super valuable, but I would say minimum $100. All right, next up we have two more banners, a Miss Mississippi USA banner and a Miss Texas USA banner. These did not belong to any particular person. These were for sale on eBay where you could order states. They're worth about $50 each. And then my friend Jessica, when she was at the Miss Teen USA or Miss USA pageant, she was at both, she gave me her competition banner, and it's got the official Teen USA Universe and USA pins on it, and you see those letters are cloth instead of stick-on. And then my friend Suzanne Duckworth gave me her Mrs. Mississippi banner she wore for competition, and those are worth about $70 for the set. I've got a Miss Rankin County Southwest banner. That was a Miss America official banner, and then these little Miss America Princess banners from 2015 we picked up in Atlantic City during the pageant. They're probably collectible, and then a little costume Miss America banner, all worth about $50. Now these are just little miscellaneous banners from little pageants we've had over the years, and they're not worth much at all, probably about $2 each, I'd say, but altogether we've got about $42 worth of banners. And that one's a cool little pin we had made for a little just for fun pageant we had called a mermaid pageant, where their crowns had mermaids on it. But all these, we have done so many pageants over the years, probably had hundreds and hundreds of pageants, and these were just some of the leftover banners we had. We had one that we gave out called the Painted Queen pageant. That was when I sold all my paintings. We had a pageant with the painting. And then this one is the Tomato Queen pageant banner. That was a pageant we had in my hometown of Crystal Springs, Mississippi, where they crowned a tomato queen because Crystal Springs used to be the Tomopolis of the world. Got 40 of these black and white banners from different countries we used when we watched the Miss Universe pageant. They're worth $1 each. And then we've got an old Ebony magazine that had a big story about the Miss Universe pageant in there, where the first runner-up that year was the first woman of color to make the top 5, I believe. And that magazine's worth about $25. And then we've got an old vintage magazine with Gloria Diaz, Miss Philippines 1969, that became Miss Universe on the cover, worth about $15. Not worth a fortune, but might be worth more than that because a lot of the Filipinos are really into pageants and they might really enjoy collecting that. Now we've got a ton of pictures here. We have a couple pictures of Miss Teen USA, Catherine Hike. They're worth about $5 each. Then we've got this Linda Lee Mead magazine article. It's got a lot of pictures from the former Miss Americas. A really good article worth about $15. Then we've got a black and white photo of Miss Universe 1970. It's probably worth about $10. And then we've got Kim Silbury. She was Miss USA 1981, worth about $10. And that's the little press release that came with it. Got a Christy Lynn Addis Miss Teen USA press release worth about $10. And then we have a Miss Universe 1984 press release worth about $10, and a colored picture. These are really hard to find. Chrissy Lynn Addis Miss Teen USA 1987 is worth about $20. And then another colored picture, Courtney Gibbs Miss USA 1988, is also worth about $20. These are just like publicity pictures they would send out the newspapers. This was Miss Universe 1967, Sylvia Hitchcock and the pageant host, worth about $10. And then Miss USA 1966 and the pageant host, worth about $10. I've got an autographed photo of Mai Shanley, Miss USA 1984, worth about $15 since it's autographed. Another picture of Kim Silbury's from 1981. She was Miss USA, worth $10. And then Miss Universe 1966 with the pageant host is worth about $10 as well. All right, we've got Miss America 1986 from Mississippi, Susan Aiken. That's worth about $10. And we have Cheryl Pruitt, Miss America from 1980 from Mississippi, worth $10. Elizabeth Ward, Miss America 1982 from Arkansas, worth about $10. Then an old picture of Linda Lee Mead, Miss America 1960 from Mississippi, also worth about $10. I usually assign the black and white pictures that are not autographed about $10. Of Charlene Wells, Miss America 1985, worth $10. And then Julie Hayek, Miss USA from California in 1983, worth $10. And then a picture of Phyllis George and Burt Parks, worth about $10. Suzette Charles and host Gary Collins, worth about $10. And then Kelly Cash and Gary Collins, worth about $10. And then we have this really cool vintage picture of Miss Mississippi 1982 and 1983, worth about $10. We've got a picture of Miss Universe 1984, worth $10. We have a Miss USA 1974 picture of Karen Morrison, worth about $15 because it's really hard to find these. They're pretty collectible. Have a Miss Universe 1985 and USA 86 picture worth about $10. That was always advertised in the upcoming Miss Universe pageant where USA was competing. And then we have one of 84, it's worth $10. And then another Julie Hayek picture worth about $10. And it has the press release on the back from CBS. Have Terry Utley, Miss USA 1982 from Arkansas, worth about $10. And this is pretty cool. It's a Harry Langston picture of Vanessa Williams and Sean Weatherly. I think this was after they gave up their titles, but a really good quality picture. And this is worth at least $20. I got that off eBay. All right, we've got some more. We've got Kaylani Ray Raffco, Miss America 1988, worth about $10. And then we've got two of these Miss Teen USA 1983 photos. She was the very first Miss Teen USA from New York. And those are worth $15 each. We've got this one from 1987. It's worth about $10 of USA and Universe. We've got Miss Universe 1983. That's worth $10. I know I can't frame all these on the wall. I'm going to have to put these in scrapbooks and just let people flip through them at the Toy Museum. We've got the 94 Universe and USA press release worth about $10. A Miss Universe 1988 picture is worth about $10. And then we have a Miss USA 1973 picture worth about $15 because it's a lot harder to find. She was from Illinois that year. And then we have Miss Universe 77 and USA 78 worth about $10. We've got Miss Universe 1985 and USA 86 worth about $10. Got a color picture of Miss USA 1979 from New York. It's worth about $20 because it's in color. This press release from 1988 is worth about $10. And then this press release from 1977 is worth about $10 as well. Got a lot of history here. This press release from 1987 is worth about $10. Then we have a picture of Miss USA 1986, Christy Fitchner, worth about $10. USA 1982, Terry Utley, worth about $10. And then a black and white picture of Miss USA 1988, Courtney Gibbs, worth $10. And a black and white picture of Karen Morrison 1974 USA, worth about $10. Carol Gist, the first African-American Miss USA, that's worth about $10. Then we have a picture of Chelsea Smith as Miss USA before she won Miss Universe in color, which is really hard to find. It's worth about $25. Kenya Moore, Miss USA 1993 is worth about $10. Michelle McLean, Miss Universe 1992 is worth about $10. And then we have Cecilia Boloco, Miss Universe from Chile. It's worth about $10. All right, this is a duplicate picture, so we'll probably sell that one. I don't like to keep duplicates. All right, we have Miss Teen USA 1984 from Illinois. That's worth about $10. Christy Lynn Addis, Miss Teen USA 1987 from Mississippi, worth about $10. And Mindy Duncan, Miss Teen USA 1988 from Oregon, also worth about $10. She was a redhead. She looked like the teenager that year when she won. I was voting for her. Gretchen Paul Hemus, Miss USA 1989 from Texas, the 5th Texan in a row to win that year. It's worth about $10. And Judy Anderson, Miss USA 1978. This one's worth about $10 as well. All right, we've still got some more. Here's that other picture of Miss Teen USA, the very first one from 1983 I had. That's worth $15. And then we have Allison Brown. She was Miss Teen USA 1986. It's worth about $10. Have Lou Parker. She was Miss USA 1994. It's worth about $10. We have Dick Clark and the hostess and Kelly McCarthy. What year was she? 1991, I believe. It's worth $10. Courtney Gibbs and Dick Clark, 1988. It's worth $10. And then we have another one of Carol Gist, the first African-American lady to be chosen Miss USA in 1990 with a press release worth about $10. Another one of Julie Hayek, Miss USA 1983. It's worth about $10. Courtney Gibbs official picture from 1988, Miss USA, worth about $10. Kelly McCarty, Miss USA 1991, worth about $10. And Shandy Fennessy, Miss USA 2004, worth about $10. Miss Teen USA in color autograph from 1991. She was from New Hampshire. It's worth about $15. This picture is kind of rare of Susan Aiken, Miss America 1986, making her homecoming appearance at the mall, worth about $15. Got some older pictures. Donna Axel, Miss America 1964, autographed, worth about $15. And this one's not old, it's newer. Catriona Gray, Miss Philippines, that won Miss Universe. It's autographed and in color, two-sided, worth about $25. Back to our older pictures, Vonda K. Van Dyke. She was Miss America 1965, worth about $15. It's autographed. And then Laurel Schaefer, Miss America 1972, autographed, worth about $15. We have Pamela Eldridge, Miss America 1970, just her autograph with a certificate of authenticity, worth about $10. I have a Suzette Charles autograph photo. She was Miss America for only 6 weeks, and that's worth about $15. And then we have a Heather Whitestone picture. That's color autograph, worth about $15. And then we have a Judy Ford, Miss America 1969 autograph picture, worth about $15. And then I don't know if this was original or a reproduction, but it's a Miss Universe on a potato sack. It was on eBay, so I definitely picked it up, 35 bucks. There's my baby girl Daisy helping me. This was a Miss Universe advertisement someone had made over in Ecuador for the 2004 pageant, worth about $25. And my Miss America blanket's worth about $5. Got these old Miss America brochures where you could order pageant program books and your tickets to the Miss America pageant. And these are from that one's from 1989, 1990, and these are all 90s and the 2000 ones. These are probably worth about $15 each. They're not worth a fortune, but they are collectible. And we have 10 of these right here. So 10 times 15, that's about $150 more we can add to our total at the end of the video. And then we have another set. These are from the 1980s. These are a lot more difficult to find. They're pretty rare. These are worth at least $20 each. Some of them might be worth more than that. Like this one with Vanessa Williams on the cover. And then when you open it up, you could see you could order the program book the way it was supposed to look like with her painting on the front. But it didn't end up being that one because Suzette Charles ended up taking over. But all these are worth about, we'll say $20 each, so that's another $160. Then I have some here that are from the 60s and 70s, and these are also worth at least $20 each. So we have 9 of these, so that's another $180 we can add to our grand total at the end of this video. I love collecting Miss America pageant memorabilia and Miss USA and Universe stuff. I wish the pageant still had the same prestige and credibility that they had back then, but they just don't now. All right, this brochure is worth about $10. This one's worth about $5, and then we have one more that's worth about $10. So that's probably about $25 worth of brochures right there. And then this is my last set I have. These are from the 50s and the 60s, and again, these are worth about $20 each, but these were amazing back then. They had full color, they had different pictures of the pageants, and then they kind of cheapened them up in the 70s and 80s a lot. They weren't as nice, but these, I'm just gonna say, are worth $20 each, but they might be worth more than that. Alright, then I found a bunch of old tote bags I have. The Miss America 75th anniversary tote bags worth at least $10, and then these other ones are probably worth about $5 each. And then one of the ways I got my start in pageants was I started this newspaper back in the 90s called Mississippi's Pageant Update, and it's kind of how I got my foot in the door, and I became so well known in the pageant world. Then I became a big state director. But these are very old, and a lot of people, all these newcomers now, they don't even know anything about this newspaper. But there were 16 issues back then, and we'll say they're worth about $35. They're worth something because they have a lot of the history of Mississippi pageants that a lot of people didn't keep up with or even know about. But I do have the first issue framed that I do have to put in the toy museum. But these are just all my extra copies I had, and I don't have but a couple of each one. All right, then we have this Miss America folder that had a lot of press releases in it. Probably not worth a lot, maybe $10. We have an autographed picture of Burt Parks, worth about $10. Ron Ely and Susan Powell's worth $10. Gary Collins and Elizabeth Ward's worth $10, and that Miss Mississippi picture was worth $5. And these old TV guides, these are worth about $10 each. And here are 5 more of those TV guides. They're not real TV guides. They're kind of like the ones that came in the newspaper. Different ones having Miss America and Miss USA's on the front covers, and these are all worth about $10 each, but they're pretty hard to find. They'll probably become a little more collectible. I've got this Susan Powell advertisement from 1981 worth about $10, and a Miss America advertising Hope chest from 1949 also worth about $10. Not worth a lot, but pretty cool to have. Got this Mickey Mouse scrapbook, and I got this off eBay. It was somebody's collection they had made in 1959 to 1960 of Marianne Mobley, who was our Miss America in 1959. She was Miss Mississippi, and then she crowned Linda Lee Mead, who was also Miss Mississippi, that became Miss America. So we had 2 Miss Mississippis become Miss America back to back, and I don't know if that's worth too much, but I'd say at least $25 for the scrapbook. I wish I would have known whose it was. Got this Miss USA poster from 2009 where my friend Jessica was Miss Mississippi USA. That year, this one right here, Miss North Carolina won the pageant, and Jessica is right there in the middle, Mississippi. That's probably worth about $10. And then I also picked up at that pageant a Las Vegas guide with Crystal Stewart on the cover, worth about $10. And we've got this Miss USA advertisement that's worth about $10 as well. This is really cool. I have 3 letterheads from the Miss America pageant from 1936. And I don't know what they're worth. I didn't pay but $20 for them on eBay. So I'm going to frame it up in the toy museum. And I'll just say they're worth about $25. But I think they're worth a little bit more than that. All right, then we've got some ticket stubs from some bleacher tickets for the Miss America Parade in Atlantic City. We have 3 of those, and I figure minimum $5 each, so that's $15. And then we have this Miss America replica keychain of one of the pageant tickets, also worth about $15. Then I got these up in Atlantic City. The outer envelope's dirty from over the years, but it was where you could buy the Miss America postcards, and you could take it to their post office there, and they would put a stamp on it and do the Miss America postmark over it. So I would say this set of postcards with the 4 is worth at least $20, maybe more than that, because I think it's pretty difficult to find. And then the next year they did it, but they only offered 2 postcards with Chantel Smith. And they did the Miss America postmark if you put a stamp on your postcard. And I'd say that set's worth at least $10. I know I'm not valuing this enough. And then they had one more set the next year that I would value it at about $10 as well. But these could be more like $30 or $40. I'm just not sure. Got this old letter from the Miss Universe pageant out of Connecticut where it was asking someone if they wanted to enter the Miss Connecticut pageant. And I read the rules and everything. And in the early days, you could have been divorced or married, but they changed that rule because they found out Miss USA in 1957 was married with kids, and they ended up taking her title away. So they definitely changed that rule. But I'd say this letter is a little piece of history and probably worth at least $10 at the most. Maybe more than that, who knows. We've got some stamps and some envelopes. This one is of the Miss World from 1979 or 1980. She was actually first runner-up to Miss Universe and then won Miss World. That's worth about $10. And then we've got these stamps of Miss World 2013 from the Philippines. I would say these are worth about $15. And then we have the Miss World stamps from Jamaica. They're probably worth about $15. And let's see who else. We have this stamp when Miss Granada won Miss World in 1970. That's probably worth at least $5, maybe more than that. And then we've got this Dominican Republic phone card with Miss Universe from 2003 on it. Amelia Vega, worth about $5. And then we have another stamp. I think this one's from Dominican Republic for Miss Universe pageant, worth about $5. And let's see what else we have. We just got tons of stuff here. This stamp set is from Botswana when she won Miss Universe, worth about $15. And then we've got a couple stamps here when the pageant was held in Panama, worth about $5. And then we have a stamp from when Miss Gibraltar won Miss World. That's probably worth at least $10. Then we have a whole sheet of Miss Universe stamps from Korea that year. And I would think this whole stamp set is probably worth at least $15. And I think it was about the year 2000, the Miss Universe pageant was held in Cyprus, and this stamp set's probably worth about $10. And then we have a Catriona Gray stamp set, probably worth about $5 because they make so many of those. Have a Korean envelope that's been used with the stamps on it, worth about $10. And then this stamp from the Miss Universe pageant in Ecuador is worth about $5. And then we have the Trinidad and Tobago set of stamps from 1977. It's worth about $15. And then we have when Mexico won Miss Universe. I think that's 2022. Probably worth about $15. And then we have some Miss Philippines envelopes when the pageant was held in the Philippines. I guess it's Miss Universe envelopes, and I'd say the whole set of these are probably worth about $20. It has different stamps on it, and it does have the postmark over the stamp showing the pageant was held there in 1974. We've got the Miss Columbia stamps. These are worth at least $20. Somebody on eBay was trying to sell theirs for $100, so I don't know how much they're really worth, but I'm gonna say 20. And then the Miss Universe stamps when Miss Lebanon won are worth about $15. And then we have these loose stamps of the Miss World pageant and the Miss Universe pageant, and I'd say they're all worth at least $20 loose. And that's the year it was held in Acapulco right there. All right, this is one of my prize pieces here. We have the dress that Miss USA 1978 was crowned in. Judy Anderson from Hawaii. She actually sold me this dress on eBay, and I don't know what it's worth. I've had a couple people guess at it, and it has a letter of her thanking me for putting it in the museum and everything, but I would say it's worth about $1,500. Got these Miss Connecticut banners that I got from an estate sale auction, and this is a prize piece for me. I paid way too much. It was $2,000, but it was all the banners, and it's these photographs, and it's the Miss Connecticut swimsuit from the 1948 Miss America pageant. It's that iconic zebra striped swimsuit, and there's even some talk that Mattel used this swimsuit to create Barbie's first swimsuit in 1959. But I'm framing this up in a shadow box, and it's a big collector piece I have for the toy museum in our pageant room, and I love it. And I'm gonna value it at about $2,000 because that is what I paid for it, but it could be worth a lot more than that. I'm just not sure. But it was from Catalina that year, and it has even the rosette that has the date and the state. All right, here we have a bunch of crowns that we've given away at our pageants over the years, just tons and tons of them. And I went through them all and added all of them up, and together at least $500. And I have them on these really cool crystal tiers, and those tiers are worth about $60 for the 3 of those. But these crowns are great, and they're very elaborate, but that's what we like here in Mississippi. It was always fun designing different crowns to give away at our pageants, and the more outrageous, the better sometimes. But I always tried to keep at least one crown from the different pageants I helped at or directed. This little crown bowl here, the little vase, is worth about $15, and the crystal Lazy Susan is worth about $20. And this award we have is worth at least $10. Got this big bouquet of flowers we use at a lot of our pageants, probably worth about $10. And then we have a whole set of banners that my niece won different state pageants in, like Junior High America and so many high school United States. I figure Probably worth about $40 for all of them because some of them have some cool pins. And I did find these 2 pageant t-shirts. One's from Miss Universe and one's Miss United States. They're probably worth $15. And here's my beautiful helper that watched me price everything throughout the day. Well, with our previous 498 videos of value in my toy collection and pageant collection, our total was $1,282,576. And then with this video, with all of our pageant memorabilia, we can add another $8,882 to our overall grand total. So that means for episode 499 of value in my toy collection and pageant collection, our new total is $1,291,458. I always wanted to say I had $1 million toy collection, and now I can finally say it. I'm not really a millionaire though, I just have a lot of toys. And I've been saving these toys and pageant items all my life, going to garage sales, flea markets, looking online, going to toy stores, just wherever I can find it. And it's just accumulated to this big old total. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed these videos as much as I am making them. I have been inventorying all this stuff, and I like to just see what I have and what it's actually worth. And I'm putting everything on our Facebook page, which is called the Toy Vault of Mississippi. And if you haven't subscribed to our videos, please think about doing so because it certainly helps us grow. So until our next video, we will see you then.